Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I'm working on the E-Flite Turbo Timber. I put this together a few days ago. I programmed it, took it down to the field, and took it for the maiden. Flies really nice. Had to do some trimming and a few little adjustments. But over the weekend, I set up all the expo and the dual rates and the speed that the flaps drop and all that stuff. So when I was looking online, I decided that I wanted to get a couple spare props. And one of the things that I read when I was looking up the spare props was that if you order the prop and think that it's going to have the white tips like it does in the picture, most of the time, if not all the time, you're just going to get a prop with that's all black with no painted tips. So I decided to just add the white tips real quick. I think they look cool when the propeller's spinning. I like that little white outline that you got spinning around. It's like a, like a white disc almost. I'm sure most of you have seen it. So I taped off the entire prop, the hub, the center included, and I painted the fronts and the backs. This is the back side, and here's the front. So I just taped it off with regular blue masking tape, and then I took a single edge razor blade after I penned on where I needed to cut, and I didn't drag the tip of the razor blade across. I set the razor blade on the edge and then rocked it back and forth a few times with not a lot of pressure, and that was enough to cut through the blue masking tape, and I got pretty nice sharp edges. So what you have to do, whether you paint the tips or not, you should balance your prop, especially after you paint the tips. You really need to balance it, because you're never going to, the paint's going to make one side heavier on a two-bladed prop. And on a three-bladed prop, you got three tips that, you're going to have two that are heavier than one. And when you put it on the balancer, one is always going to swing down to the bottom, and that's your heaviest blade. So that's, I did all that, and I'm to the point where I've taken all the paint off the back of this blade. I've added a little bit of weight with some adhesive on the other two. And we can get that to focus. You can take my word for it. There's a little bit of adhesive right there. So what you do is you get a tool like this. This is the Dubro prop balancer, and it's all stainless steel hardware. These shafts right here are all stainless steel, and those support these two uprights, these two pieces on each side. And there's two metal discs in that upright, in that plastic housing. You can see them right there, pretty good. So then you have this stainless steel shaft, and I'll set that on there. And you can see that the prop's just, it's wiggling. So you have these centering cones. There's one on this side, and then this one, it's got a little spring and a little piece of fuel tubing right here. And you slide the fuel tubing off, slide the spring off, and then slide the centering cone off. Slide your propeller on, and then put all those pieces back on, the centering cone, the spring, and the retainer. So I'll push that all forward, see if I can show it to you. So I just grab right behind that piece of blue fuel tubing there, push all that forward, and what that does is it forces those centering cones into the hole in the hub of the prop. So now you can see when I put this on there, look at that. There's zero friction where this shaft meets those two discs. I mean, it's like there's no friction. You can see how much it's just moving freely from me setting it on the balancer. So what I want to do is just touch this. Let's see. You got to kind of time it just right. All right, so we're going to let the prop rotate a few times. Let it go 3, 4, 5 times. If you spin it too hard, you're going to fall asleep waiting for it to stop. So when it really has no preference on a 3-blade prop, and it's just kind of swinging around, and it really has no preference after you test it a few times, after you spin it around a few times, I call that good, and I mount it on the plane. I've had one blade that's consistently dropping to the bottom, and I've already sanded all the paint off the back of the prop. I painted the back of the blades for this reason, so I'd have something to take off weight on the consistently heavy tip. So what I need to do is I need to add a little bit more on these other two tips. I can sand the back of this a little bit. I can take some of this paint off on the edges. And that's what I'm going to try. So let me try that. I'm going to grab this little piece of sandpaper here, and I'm going to sand the paint on the leading and trailing edge right at the paint. So let me try that, and we'll come back. Okay, you can see right there on the trailing edge of the prop, I took quite a bit of paint off. I don't know if you can see the leading edge too. Let me see if I can get that. Yeah, so the paint wrapped all the way around to the back. And I've taken all that off. I've taken off some. There you can see it on the leading edge and the trailing edge. And we're going to put it back on the balancer. So make sure there's nothing rubbing these discs, especially this little piece of fuel tubing right there. So I'm going to give it a touch. We're going to let it rotate a few times. So here comes the heavy tip right there that's been consistently dropping down. And like I said, it's not crazy. I mean, this prop is really probably about as close as it's going to get on a 3-bladed prop, but now that one side is going to pull down again. So I'm going to take a little bit more off of there, try it again. This is what it is. It's, trial and error. You balance it. If it's still really heavy on one side, you got to work through that. It's really easy with it's a lot easier with a 2-bladed prop than it is a 3 or 4-bladed prop. So I'm going to take a little bit more paint off the front, the face of the prop on that one tip, and we'll come back and try it again. All right, so I took a little bit more paint off the leading and trailing edge like I showed you a moment ago, and I even scraped a little bit off the face. So there's that heavy tip again. All right, I'll take a little bit more paint off the face and we'll try it again. I do want to mention that this prop was not balanced the way it came with the timber. It was also doing the same thing. And so this is something you really want to do. You want to balance your propellers, because I've had more than one propeller on ARFs, and it's not just E-flite. I've had other ARFs where the props aren't balanced, and sometimes the spinners, the bigger they get, they're not balanced. So let me try that. Let me take a little bit more paint off, and we'll try it again. All right, so you can see this is the front of the propeller. You can see all 3 tips are painted. There's the back. All 3 tips were painted. And in an effort to balance this, I ended up sanding off all the paint on the leading edge and trailing edge. And look how much paint I took off compared to one of the other tips. So this is just what I've had to do to get this prop to balance out satisfactory. So let me throw it on the balancer. Try it again. I think I'm going to call this good wherever this ends up. 3 blades are difficult, guys. So you can see that's not really swinging hard. There's no, when it gets to the top, no momentum really going crazy. So there, it's just starting to pull that one blade down to the bottom. It's going to swing through. I'll take a little bit more off and I'll try it one more time. So you can see how much paint I've taken off, and that tip is just, when you look at it like this, it just looks crappy. Get that to focus. What the hell? All right, there it is. You can see how much paint I've taken off, and doesn't look as good as the other tips, and they're not perfect, but this will never show when the engine's running. So let me throw it on the balancer one more time. This is the final time. This is going to be really close. I don't think it'll be perfect. 3 blades, like I said, are really hard to get perfect, but this is way better than it was. So let me give this a little spin. This is why you always want to have a cup of coffee or some sort of drink and a snack when you're balancing props. It takes a while. It's a lot of patience, and here we go. So there's the black tip coming up across the top. And the prop stopped. That tip's not pulling through to the bottom anymore. So we're going to call that good, and we're going to mount that on the plane. We'll have no vibration, at least no vibration caused by the prop, and that's really what you want. You don't want any vibration, unnecessary vibration caused by the prop. So balance your props, balance your spinners, and I think you'll see a big improvement. It's fun. It's a quality tool from Dubro. It's made in the USA. All their hardware is excellent. Unfortunately for me, there's no local hobby shop where I can go in, spin the rack around, and get all the cap head screws I need, hex head screws, washers, just anything you can name, because the hardware that comes in kits and some of the true ARFs, not the bind and fly and the plug and play, but ARFs where you have to, assemble it and put your motor and your speed control. I don't like a lot of that hardware, but Dubro makes some great stuff. You can look that up on Tower. You can find this on Tower Hobbies. And like I said before, I've mentioned it. I don't know if I mentioned it in this video. I've mentioned it before that you can find a lot of these things secondhand on RC groups. And something like this, it's got, even if it's used, it's got, it's not worn. They don't wear out. It's not like you're buying a used brushless motor or something like that where you really don't know what you're getting. Check it out, guys. The prop balancer from Dubro. Excellent tool to have on your bench. I wouldn't be without it.